Hi, my name is Judi Friedman, and I'm chairperson of PACE, People's Action for Clean Energy. We're the largest statewide clean energy organization, all volunteer, in Connecticut, and we work very hard with national and international organizations. This is our brochure. You'll see our website. It's a very interesting organization, I think. It's been around for quite a while, since 1973, and we're committed to three basic ideas. One is to promote the development of alternative sources of energy, especially passive solar, solar hot water, and photovoltaic energy. That's solar electricity, and it works in Connecticut. The second idea is to encourage the efficient use of energy. We are wasting so much energy that we could be using. And lastly, we are adamantly, deeply opposed to the use of nuclear energy as a source of power in this state. We're also very concerned about the use of fossil fuels. As you all know, we have very high cancer and asthma rates in this state. And if we simply change to green, clean energy, energy efficiency and conservation, we would solve a great many health problems. And that's a real win-win. It also would help us not rely on foreign supplies of uranium and oil, not rip apart mountaintops in Virginia and many other places, and potentially oil spills in many places. So we're very excited about the possibilities, the use, the available technologies. And today we have an expert with us who is going to tell you about some of the wonderful things that Connecticut is doing right now. This is not pie in the sky. This is here now, and every single one of you who uses electricity can be involved in this marvelous new Connecticut program. And frankly, it's one of the programs that makes me very proud to be a Connecticut citizen. In front of me, you'll see a small house demonstrating the use of renewable energy. Here are solar hot water panels. Here is a photovoltaic panel supplying electricity, and there are many other environmental aspects to this house that we can discuss later. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to our guest. His name is Bob Wahl, and he's from SmartPower. Bob, how are you?
I'm fine, Judy. Thank you for having me tonight.
You're welcome. Bob I know him personally. He's a very fine person, a very dedicated person, and he works with SmartPower. Can you tell us what SmartPower is? Is it smart?
It sure is. SmartPower is a nonprofit marketing campaign for clean energy. We were created here in Connecticut by the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund in 2002, along with funding from various private foundations. And we're leading the effort to market clean energy, both here and now throughout the country. We're now working in states in the New England region, as well as Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Arizona. And our message is clean energy. It's real, it's here, it's working. Let's make more.
So how is it working in Connecticut? What can someone, the average person in Connecticut, do to be involved in this clean energy movement?
Well, they can do a lot of things. Last year, Connecticut instituted a brand new program called the Connecticut Clean Energy Options Program. This program was developed under the direction of the Connecticut Department of Utility Controls, and with input from the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund and a number of other stakeholders. And it allows all customers of CLNP and United Illuminating to support clean energy through their current utility program. They don't have to put solar panels on their roof or a windmill. It's as simple as checking off a box. And I actually brought a box. People might have noticed this. Came in their September electric bill inserts, and they can simply sign up for clean energy using this form. And if you'd like more information on this, please visit gocleanenergy.com.
Wonderful. Now, I would get that in my utility bill, and so I should be checking my utility bill to see if this insert is in it?
Yes, but don't feel bad if you're like 90% of Connecticut's residents. You typically shake out the the bill part and toss the rest, hopefully in your recycling container. But if you happen to miss it, it's always available online through your utility websites or the gocleanenergy.com website. Furthermore, there are many organizations such as PACE that are diligently working at events and fairs throughout the state and encouraging people to sign up and support clean energy.
So if I normally am a CL&P customer or a UI customer, I can get into this program through my utility, and what will happen? Will my lights go off?
No, everything works just the same as it did before. Your lights still go on, your air conditioner still works the same as before. The only difference you'll notice is that there's a small additional line item on your bill, and for the average house in Connecticut using 700 kilowatt hours, the additional cost ranges from $3.85 to $8 depending on which option you choose. There are two choices in Connecticut, Community Energy or Sterling Planet, and you can choose to offset 100% or 50% of your electric use.
So I get this slip and I look at it, and then I have to make a choice of Community Energy or Sterling Planet. How would I know which one to choose?
Well, they're both excellent companies that are operating in a number of states in the country. They're two of the leading clean energy marketing companies out there, and they offer slightly different products. For example, Community Energy offers half wind and half landfill gas, which comes from facilities either in the Mid-Atlantic region or New England. Sterling Planet, on the other hand, has a mix of 1/3 wind, 1/3 landfill gas, and 1/3 hydro, small hydro, which comes right here in Connecticut.
Wonderful. So I would sign up. I would choose either Community Energy or Sterling Planet and then fill out that form, and my power wouldn't change. I'd still get everything else, but I would incur a slightly greater cost, slightly.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And that would amount to maybe McDonald's meal for my child.
It's been a while since I personally have eaten at McDonald's. My child gets the Happy Meal, so it probably is the equivalent of a Happy Meal, or maybe a little bit extra. We often say like equivalent of a cup of Starbucks or two.
So I would maybe give up a cup of Starbucks, which isn't too healthy. I mean, nothing against any coffee company, but I would give up that maybe and do this, or maybe I could afford to do both. But it's a very incremental, very small cost, right?
It is a modest cost, and we tell people that you don't really have to sacrifice anything, and better yet, what you talked about earlier is that if people could exercise greater energy efficiency and conservation, you could help reduce the amount of dirty energy that we're using and increase the amount of clean energy that we're using without any added cost.
Some people say, well, my electric bill keeps going up, my rates keep going up, why should I pay more? How do you answer that?
Well, I believe that clean energy really is an investment in our future. As you mentioned earlier, we need greater energy independence. From everyone from the president on down tells us that we're addicted to foreign fossil fuels, and we need to move away from that. We now have the opportunity to support homegrown sources of energy, and the best part about these sources is that they're essentially free. There is no cost for sunlight, there's no cost for wind, and the quicker we can convert our economy to these types of energy generating facilities, the better off we'll be, and in the long run we can help to stabilize electric rates.
Well, that's very exciting. One thing I know I've said to people who have complained about the slightly higher cost, maybe $4 a month or something like that, I say, do you give to the Cancer Society? Do you give to the Heart Association? Do you give to the Lung Association? If you give to any of those organizations, the extra little bit you're giving to this idea will do more directly to help health in this state than almost anything else we can do, because I think we have a lot of our illnesses are certainly somewhat, if not completely, caused by our energy sources. Do you agree with that?
I do, and if anyone at home is curious, I encourage you to look at the American Lung Association report card for Connecticut. And sadly, every county in the state of Connecticut received an F grade from the American Lung Association. We have some of the worst air quality in the country, And on that report card, they list the estimated number of illnesses. And these illnesses particularly affect children and seniors. So it's a good analogy to think about. If you're going to donate money to a charity, why not help to prevent the illnesses in the first place?
What a great gift to give at holiday time or birthday, to give the gift of better health for not only our children, but many, 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 many children. I think that's very exciting, and we're really all about children. We want to help raise a healthy generations.
And not only that, when the children grow up, we want them to have good jobs, and Connecticut is really the center of a lot of activity in the clean energy industry. We used to be known as the insurance capital of the world, and now we're known as the fuel cell capital of the world. We also have a lot of businesses surrounding solar technologies, and we even have a large wind developer headquartered in Essex, and one of the world's leading wind turbine manufacturers in General Electric in my hometown of Fairfield.
So clean, green energy efficiency is economically a smart way to go for our state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think study after study has shown that there's greater economic development potential with renewable technologies than with our conventional fuels.
So, because if, let's say, we wanted to put up this solar collector on a house, that would involve workers, and if you did it on millions of houses, that would involve many, many workers, much more than Connecticut employees in a nuclear plant or concerned with oil or other technologies. So it is very clear that this is job creating.
Sure, you're talking about research positions, you're talking about manufacturing, electricians, laborers, it runs the whole gamut.
And I think a lot of people these days really like the idea of American-made, and so this is American-made energy. At our home in Canton, we do have solar photovoltaic cells on our roof, and here we are in Connecticut, and at Arizona or New Mexico, sending clean energy into the grid and spinning the meter backwards, getting paid for it. And it's a very exciting technology. It involves very little maintenance, but when we need it, we have Connecticut jobs. We're using Connecticut employees, Connecticut workers, and we're feeding the grid with no emissions, no smell, no waste, and it's very exciting. Now, there's a very exciting race going on that I like races. And Connecticut is having a town race, and you might want to find out whether or not your town is engaged in this race. Could you tell us about the race?
I think you're talking about the Connecticut Clean Energy Communities program, which is a partnership between the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund and SmartPower, supported by community action across the state in towns like Canton and Fairfield. And already there are 30 towns that have made a commitment to clean energy, including our host town of Plainville. And of those towns, 13 have qualified as clean energy communities. Now, the way this campaign works, a town makes a commitment to the SmartPower 20% by 2010 campaign.
20% by 2010. 20% what?
They pledge to get 20% of the electricity for municipal properties from clean renewable sources by the end of the decade. So that's step one. Step two is they reach a certain threshold of signups for the Connecticut Clean Energy Options program. The most common way is to get 100 signups in your town, but it can also be accomplished by a large business or institution making a purchase, such as Curtis Packaging did to help Newtown earn a free solar system. And that's step three. When you satisfy the first two steps, the Clean Energy Fund will give the town a free solar photovoltaic system.
So if your town is one of those smart towns who signed up for the Clean Energy Program and 100 people send this in, your town will receive a 1 kilowatt solar electric system to put on a municipal building. Is that correct?
Yes, these systems have a value of at least $10,000, and that's not including the free electricity that will be generated for 30 years or more. And more than that, they're an outstanding educational tool that can be used in your schools. The fund provides a free communications link so students can log on to the internet and study how much electricity is being created by their system. also learn how much emissions are being avoided by the use of that system. They're even going to add a cost calculator so they can see how much money the town is saving as a result of the system. I happen to prepare a little map so viewers can look to see if their town is one of Connecticut's clean energy communities. As I said, there are 30 towns at present, and this is slightly out of date. We don't have Middlefield or Newtown added yet, but there are 30 towns, and 13 have qualified for at least one free solar system.
I love the idea of a solar system on a school because students can see clean energy being made. They can document how much, they can find out the savings right there in their own school, and that's a system free to the school. The installation is free, and it's just a total win-win. All you need is 100 people in your town signing up. Now, what happens if you get 200 people signing up?
Then the incentive is doubled. You get 2 free systems and so on. If you're very successful, West Hartford just went over its 500th customer. New Haven just went over its 600th customer.
So West Hartford will have 5 1-kilowatt solar systems on municipal buildings?
Well, actually they had earned 3, and they chose to put in a 3-kilowatt system onto its town hall. So that's already in place, and they've now since earned 2 more systems, which they can combine. It's
not just the educational value or the good, but what you're doing is actually saving the town money.
Correct.
So they're going to be able to subtract that rising electric cost, and it's going to be saving them money. It's economically smart.
Every year it'll get more valuable, but you would have loved to have joined us about 2 weeks ago in my hometown. We had the ribbon-cutting ceremony at Fairfield Woods Middle School, and a group of the middle school choir sang, "Here Comes the Sun."
Oh.
Had you written all over it, Judy?
Oh, that's just wonderful. And again, I am so proud of Connecticut for embracing this wonderful program, and I just hope that everyone's town will be part of this great race. Right now, what's the number? Is West Hartford the town that has the most sign-ups so far?
No, actually that honor still goes to New Haven. You might recall there was a challenge between the mayors of those towns, and New Haven actually squeaked it out and earned some free soda from West Hartford.
So if some of you are involved with some of the leadership in your town, you might want to set up a race, a competition with a sister town and see who can do better. And it's this initiative does come either from the citizens in the community, or it can come through the select persons or the mayor's office, or there are various ways that this idea gets going. Let's say someone said they would like to get this going in their town, and their town doesn't do it. What can a person do to start the ball rolling in their town?
Well, I think any citizen can talk about it in their community. There's often an opportunity for public comment at a Board of Selectmen meeting or council meeting. We have a website that we developed with the Clean Energy Fund, which is ctcleanenergy.com/communities. And there are actually some toolkits there, so citizens, if they're interested, can simply send a letter using this toolkit. They could send it to their first selectman, or they could send a letter to their newspaper, which of course they could do on their own, but this makes it that much easier for folks to do. But there are a lot of organizations throughout the state, not just PACE, but many organizations that are so active and are so helpful in this crusade. I mean, I'm talking about Clean Water Action and the Interreligious Eco-Justice Network, Sierra Club. They're all working in different ways with their members and the people they encounter at festivals to really encourage people to support clean energy. So we couldn't do it without the help of many, many friends.
It's very important that people understand that if you sign up for this program, which frankly, I'm being totally honest with you, this is one of the best ideas I could ever imagine, because it's so win-win and anyone can do it. But people get confused. They think if they sign up for this program that their home will actually be supplied with clean energy. Can you explain so they're not confused about that point?
I can try. Our electricity is supplied from a grid system, and in our case it's the New England grid. I tell people it's similar to a bathtub that's fed by many different faucets. Some of those faucets are natural gas facilities, some burn coal, some burn oil, some have nuclear power, and there's large hydro. And when you get way down the list, there's a very small percentage of renewables. And the goal of this program is to turn off some of those dirty faucets and help turn on some of the clean ones, thereby cleaning up the overall pool, if you will. And the more demand we have, we can start building new facilities. And through programs like this, we've added wind farms in New England. So we're helping to bring clean energy generating systems online, which helps everybody in the long run.
So your money will go into this pool and help supply more green energy. And what's so exciting, which I think we all know, is that the greater the demand, the greater the supply will follow. We can see that with the Prius cars, for instance. With the gasoline shortage, we've seen greater and greater demand for Prius and a greater and greater supply. Many, many wonderful things are created and magnified because of increased demand. So signing up for this program will help us, bring us to a place where we can rely on green energy to a greater extent. And maybe, heaven, I just hope someday 100% green, clean energy plus conservation, energy efficiency.
Well, we may have no choice going forward. I mean, it's true that some of the resources are becoming more scarce, like oil and natural gas. And you have other industries like the coal and nuclear industries that are hoping to fill that void. But the reality is, as oil and gas become more scarce, it's going to drive up the cost for those other types of systems. They're already prohibitively expensive if you take the true cost into account. Everyone says that nuclear, or they used to say that nuclear would be too cheap to meter. Well, that's a great myth, and they're not taking into account a lot of factors like the cost of decommissioning, storing radioactive waste, the insurance, and so forth.
And we're not taking the cost of health. And when we look at these energy sources, we have to look at the total picture, a holistic view, and consider the health ramifications of these different energy sources. So that's another saving that comes from using clean, renewable energy sources.
Right. I often tell people that you can't judge the cost of the fuel we use by the price on the bill.
That's true.
They're two different things.
That's true. I'm very excited by many aspects, many green technologies in Connecticut. One is certainly solar, and we are seeing some wonderful new ventures with solar. For instance, Whole Foods has a new way of financing their solar system. I gather there's an outside business that has venture capitalists that is paying for installing the system, and then Whole Foods benefits from the clean electricity, and the investors who have invested in this system on the Whole Foods roof get a very good return, and so it's a win-win for everybody. This is a new exciting idea, is it not?
Yeah, you're talking about the warehouse in Cheshire, which is currently the largest solar installation in the state. It's 121 kilowatts. And you're right, Judy, that there are companies now that will pay for the purchase and installation and even the maintenance, not that there is much for solar. And in return, they simply ask that the host site enter into a long-term electricity contract, which is at or below the current market prices. So it's a great way to hedge electricity costs, and they're taking advantage of a number of incentives that are available. In particular, the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund is offering incentives to commercial and institutional customers as well as residential customers, where they help to buy down the upfront cost of these systems. And if you're a private entity, you can take advantage of federal tax credits, and if you're a business, depreciation and so forth. So there are a lot of ways that a customer who's interested in putting solar can help reduce that cost.
People say, well, where are we going to put solar? Well, I see more and more big box developments everywhere, and those flat roofs are just calling for solar. and parking lots covered with roofs that have solar cells on top of them would cool the car and generate electricity at the same time. So I don't think the availability of space is really a factor that's limiting solar in Connecticut. Do you?
Not at all. I think the difference is that with solar, right now we're not talking about utility scale projects. These are systems that go with the building that they're on, and they help. We have net metering laws in Connecticut, so it helps to defray the cost of electricity. And people often wonder whether we have enough sunlight here in Connecticut, and they're surprised to learn that we have as much sunlight in Connecticut as they do in Barcelona, Spain.
Oh, wow.
So that always comes as a jaw dropper for people. And then when you compare us to a country like Germany, which is one of the leading supporters of solar PV in the world, we have much more average sunlight than they do.
Another very interesting renewable energy source that we have that a lot of people don't know about is in northeastern Connecticut. We have a lot of available, unused mill sites, dam sites, which were the sites of factories and are no longer being used. And so the small hydro is something that can be employed in that area. Now, you also mentioned clean energy from landfills. Can you tell us about what that would mean? What is that all about? How does that work?
Well, landfills contain organic matter, which when it decomposes, it emits methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. And we now have the ability to capture that methane and convert it into electricity rather than sending it off into the atmosphere. So that we're helping to avert some dangerous emissions through that. But we can also get methane from things like wastewater from a sewage treatment plant. In my hometown of Fairfield, we have a microturbine that runs off the methane. So there are more than one way to take advantage of these resources.
How about wind power for Connecticut? Is that possible? How do you feel that is as a source?
Sure, it's possible. I think right now the technology that's available, it's unlikely that Connecticut is going to see development of utility scale wind farms. But we do have a number of areas that are suited for smaller wind, perhaps an individual turbine. And I'm thinking specifically of the coastline and some ridge lines. But there are places throughout the state. There's even a map that is available online where people can study the amount of wind. And the Clean Energy Fund is looking into offering a program similar to their solar for people that wanted to put in a wind turbine. I think you did a tour last year of a house in Cheshire that has both wind and solar.
Wonderful, wonderful installation. As people think about these different energy technologies, it's very important not to think about any of them in isolation, but to think of, compare them as far as problems go. Now, there are certain problems with wind, there's no doubt, but would one prefer an oil spill, a nuclear meltdown, more cancer and asthma rates, mountaintops ripped apart? We have to weigh all those
choices.
Choices.
I'm waiting for the choice I want to make.
So with Bob Wahl, with SmartPower, you have a chance. Anyone, you don't have to put up a solar cell, but you have a chance to actually be a participant in the renewable energy movement. And I just think what you're doing is wonderful, and we just love SmartPower.
Thanks, and I was pleased this morning to learn that Connecticut has gone over 10,000 customers in the Connecticut Clean Energy Options Program.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, 10,000 smart people. Let's add another 20 and 30,000. Maybe each of you who see this program will opt through your utility for green, clean energy. It's a wonderful, wonderful asset and something Connecticut should be very, very proud of. And we thank you so much for coming tonight and being part of this wonderful affair that Nutmeg TV is hosting.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.